In the last video, we learnt that a staff is the foundation of 5 lines and 4 spaces upon which notes are drawn, and that clefs assign specific notes to certain lines or spaces. Treble and bass clefs are the most commonly used, and that ledger lines are used to expand the range of the staff. And we've seen how the notes on the piano correspond to the notes on the staff, and that there are 12 semitones contained within each octave. And playing all 12 semitones consecutively between the same note in each octave is called a chromatic scale. In this video, we're going to learn how to construct a different type of scale that's made up not just of consecutive semitone steps, but of a combination of some whole tone steps and some semitone steps. It's called a major scale, and is the first and most basic of many different types of scales that we're going to look at. A scale is basically a set of notes which either all ascend or descend in small steps, usually half steps or whole steps, and belong to a single key. A key is basically a set of note pitches that are used in a piece of music. A key defines a scale, and a scale defines a key. They're interconnected together. So each key has its own set of scales, and a scale is defined by what key it's played in. Now the key is represented by what we call a key signature, which is basically a set of sharps or flats that's written at the beginning of a staff in order to indicate what key the piece of music is in. Now there are 2 types of keys music can be played in, major keys or minor keys. Therefore, there are also 2 types of scales, major scales or minor scales, that correspond accordingly. So we're going to start by looking at the major scale, which corresponds with major keys. Now the major scale consists of 2 whole steps, a half step, then 3 whole steps, and then another half step. And we can build any major scale in any key using this formula. So let's look at the key of C right now, which contains no sharps or flats. So if we start here on this C, we can construct a major scale like this. We go C, then a whole step, another whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, whole step, whole step, and then half step. So that's the C major scale, 8 notes. We go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Let me show you what this looks like in notation. And here we have this basic C major scale. So we have these intervals. We have a whole step between the first and second degree, then another whole step, then a half step between E and F. Remember when we looked at chromatic scales, we saw that there's only a half step between E and F natural. Then we have a whole step, another whole step, another whole step, and then finally a half step between the last 2 notes going back to C. Now this is called a diatonic scale, meaning that it consists of a series of whole steps and half steps that all belong to the same key, as opposed to a chromatic scale, which consists of every note available between any given octave. Now, numerals as well as names are also used to identify the degrees or steps of the scale. Numeral designations follow the ascending melodic order of the scale steps and are referred to as the first step, second step, third step, etc. So in other words, instead of calling this C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, we can call it the first step, second step, third step, etc. Let me show you a little graphic with that. First step, second step, third step, fourth step, fifth step, sixth, seventh, and eighth step. So you can see that a regular major scale has 8 steps or 8 degrees in it. Very important to understand this and get used to and comfortable and familiar with referring to these different scale steps by their number. Now there's also another system of naming that's used in classical music theory, which refers to the note's function in the corresponding key signature. So each degree or step of the scale has a specific function in this key, in this case the key of C. Let me show you another graphic here that has these names. So we see the first degree is called the tonic, the second degree is called the supertonic, the third is called the mediant, the fourth is called the subdominant, the fifth is called the dominant, the sixth degree is called the submediant, the seventh is called the subtonic, and the eighth is called the tonic again, since it's the same note as the root note or the tonic at the beginning of the scale. So, important to understand these functions in the key as well. So that's a basic introduction to the major scale. Study it and learn it, and basically what you got to memorize is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That's the interval or distances between each note that comprises the scale. So that's it for this video. I'm going to leave you with this image of the keyboard, and you can pick out with your mouse the notes on the keyboard and see if you can figure out some scales starting on different notes. Again, using the same formula, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. In the next video, we're going to look at some major scales in different keys and see how to set up the corresponding key signature to match.